Hi, my name is Brandon and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. And today I am starting on chapter 2 from the Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. This chapter starts out with a bang. So here's the first thing you read in this chapter. Your inner growth is completely dependent upon the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking about yourself. Wow. All right, so that's a huge idea in both this book and in what we learn in traditional 12-step programs. We learn that in our addictions, we are primarily selfish, self-centered, and we need to get away from that mode of thinking. We need to stop thinking about ourselves. Now, in the 12-step traditions, many of us learn that a good way to do that is by helping others, by volunteering, by working with other alcoholics and addicts. And that's very, very true. Very important part of it. What we're going to talk about in this chapter is some of the mental ways that we can stop thinking about ourselves as much and do a little bit of shifting in perspective. Remember in chapter 1, we talked about how this book really focuses on a shift in perspective on our personal identity. And chapter 2 expands on that and helps us look at a different way to look at the way we're reacting to the world around us. So I want to go through some of this chapter. I'm going to take it kind of slow. So I'll do this chapter over the next, at least today and tomorrow, maybe the next day as well. So kind of continuing the way we did with the first chapter, I'm going to talk about the principles that are introduced in this chapter. And I'm going to go ahead and read this next part that I underlined. It says, the bottom line is you'll never be free of problems until you are free from the part within that has so many problems. When a problem is disturbing you, don't ask, what should I do about it? Ask, what part of me is being disturbed by this? If you ask, what should I do about it? You've already fallen into believing that there really is a problem outside that must be dealt with. So the idea here is that a lot of times when we come up with problems that we need to deal with, we run with them. We start immediately trying to find solutions instead of stopping and asking, why am I bothered by this? And this happens a lot with personal interactions. I've noticed this myself with personal interactions with other people. I'll get bothered by something, and instead of asking, why is this bothering me? I will start thinking about what should I do about it. And I had a great opportunity to do that last night. I was at a meeting where there were some people behind me who were talking very loudly, and it was bothering me. And then I thought, well, should I say something to these people? You know, should I ask them to stop talking? And then I started thinking, well, I'm worried that might cause a ruckus and cause even more disturbance to the people around me. And I just started going over and over this stuff in my head instead of stopping and saying, why is this bothering you? Just focus on what you're focusing on. Let these folks do their thing and move on. So we've got to look at why we're bothered. And in that case, my answer is I was bothered because it was something that I wanted to control. And I think if I had just let go of control a little bit, I would have been in a little better shape. So once you clearly, reading again from the book, once you clearly see the disturbed part, then ask, who is it that sees this? Who notices this inner disturbance? Asking this is the solution to your every problem. The very fact that you can see the disturbance means that you are not it. So, first principle in this chapter, don't ask yourself what to do about a problem. Observe why it's bothering you in the first place. And then the second principle is try to identify with the part of yourself that's doing that observing. Try not to identify with the part of yourself that's having this problem with whatever the situation is. Try to identify with the part of yourself who's observing what's bothering you. And here's why that's important. The process of seeing something requires a subject-object relationship. The subject is called the witness because it is the one who sees what's happening. The object is what you're seeing, in this case, the inner disturbance. This act of maintaining object awareness of the inner problem is always better than losing yourself in the outer situation. So looking at what's bothering us and why it's bothering us is better than looking at what can I do to control what's happening outside. This is the essential difference between a spiritually minded person and a worldly person. Worldly doesn't mean that you have money or stature. Worldly means that you think the solution to your inner problems is in the world outside. You think that if you change things outside, you'll be okay. But nobody has ever truly become okay by changing things outside. There's always the next problem. The only real solution is to take the seat of witness consciousness and completely change your frame of reference. So, how many of us have sought satisfaction, have sought relief of our problems by finding solutions in the world outside of us? The idea of, well, if I just get this next promotion at work, everything will be okay. Or if I can just get this girl or boy to like me, man or woman, to like me, I'll be okay. If I can just get this relationship, I'll be okay. If I can just reconcile with my son or my daughter or my children, I'll be okay. If I can just get this amount of money, I'll be okay. It's easy to fall into that line of thinking, but we've got to avoid that. And that's what both the 12 steps teach us, as well as this book. That's what we're talking about here. So he goes on to say, to attain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them. No solution can possibly exist while you're lost in the energy of a problem. Everyone knows you can't deal well with a situation if you're getting anxious, scared, or angry about it. The first problem you have to deal with is your own reaction. So this is the third principle in this chapter. Instead of trying to control the world around you to solve your problems, observe those same problems and then try to control your reaction to them. You will not be able to solve anything outside until you own how the situation affects you inside. Problems are generally not what they appear to be. When you get clear enough, you will realize that the real problem is that there is something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything. The first step is to deal with that part of you. This involves a change from outer solution consciousness to inner solution consciousness. You have to break the habit of thinking that the solution to your problems is to rearrange things outside. So rearranging the world to fit my goals, to fit my needs, to fit my wants, that is what's causing a lot of my problems. What I need to do is to look at how I react to the world around me and to start identifying with the part of me that can watch my reactions. That's the first step. So this gets to the fourth principle. The first step to learning how to look at your reaction to the world around you is to observe the mental narrative, the ongoing mental chatter going on in our brains. This narrative is with you all the time, and he refers to this narrative as the roommate. So I'll read this part to finish up for today. Once you take that seat of consciousness, you can get rid of these personal disturbances. You start by watching. Just be aware that you are aware of what is going on in your brain. It's easy. What you'll notice is that you're watching a human being's personality with all its strengths and weaknesses. It's as though there's somebody in there with you. You might actually say you have a roommate. So start by doing that. Just watch. Just watch what's going on in your head. Watch the inner dialogue, the narrative that's happening. Just do that. And as we do this and as we continue to read the book, you'll see some patterns developing. You'll see some things happening with the ability to react in different ways to the world around you. And they're ways that have more to do with your inner person than they do with the outer world and trying to shape the outer world and really exerting your will and your desires on the world around you. That's not an effective way to live, and it creates more problems than it solves. But we do it because it feels good, because it feels like control. And that's what a lot of us, especially addicts and alcoholics, really crave, is some kind of control. And if we can start to let go of that a little bit and start to refocus our energies on the things that are within our control, which are very limited, then we find that a lot of the problems that have been bothering us start to go away. So this book really helps us learn how to do that. In the meantime, I'll be back here tomorrow with chapter 2. Hope you have more of chapter 2, and hope you have a good day.